In the last video, we have discussed about Saturn in the 11th house of the horoscope. In this video, we are going to talk about what happens when you have Jupiter in the 11th house of the horoscope. So keep watching. Namaste and welcome to Pramanik Astrology channel. I am your host Prasad Mahazani. Help you raise your vibrations and become your true self with the help of Vedic Astrology. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. You'll be getting Vedic astrological videos just like this one. These videos will help you go further, faster into Vedic astrological studies. And these videos will help you raise your vibrations and become your true self with the help of Vedic astrology. If you have any question, add me on Instagram at Pramanik Astrology. Or you can put your question into the comment section of the relevant YouTube videos. I read all the comments and I try to reply to almost all the comments. Jupiter in the 11th house of the horoscope. What is Jupiter? The first thing which comes to my mind when I think of Jupiter is expansion. Jupiter is about abundance, expansion, positivity, goodness, surplus, income, wisdom, ethics, values, morals, honesty, teachers, guru, student, and faith, belief, optimism, fortune, happiness. All these can be seen with Jupiter. What is 11th house? 11th house is the house of gains, profits, friends, networking, social connections, arts and enjoyment. 11th house is the house which shows your abilities and capabilities to enjoy the life. 11th house is also known as the Labha or Labhesh. 11th house is one of the Upachaya houses. It means it grows with time. So if you have any planet into the 11th house of your horoscope, it will keep on improving and will give you good results over the period of time. 3, 6, 10 and 11 are the Upachaya houses. Apart from being the Upachaya house, 11th house is also one of the Kama Trikona houses. What are the Kama Trikona houses? There are 12 houses and those are divided by the motives: Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So each of these motives have 3 houses. Like Dharma Trikona has 1, 5, 9. And 2, 6, 10 are Artha Trikona. 3, 7, 11, which is the trine we are concerned with today because we are talking about 11th house, is a Kama Trikona house or a Kama Trikona. And 4, 8, 12 is a Moksha Trikona house or Moksha trine. This also has the elemental connection with it, like 1, 5, 9 is fire element, 2, 6, 10 are earth element, 3, 7, 11 are air element, and 4, 8, 12 are the water element. Today we are talking about the 11th house. 11th house is the house which is Upachaya house, Kama Trikona house, and is an air element house, which is ruled by Aquarius in the natural horoscope, which is ruled by Saturn. Now we have Jupiter in the 11th house of the horoscope. The planet of expansion, abundance and goodness and surplus comes into the house of profits and huge gains. What can you expect? Huge gains. The planet of abundance is coming into the house of gains. So when you have planet Jupiter into the 11th house, this person enjoys the gains. Depending upon the lordship of the Jupiter or the Rashi of the Jupiter into the 11th house, Jupiter gives great results and great gains with respect to those houses. The planet of wisdom comes into the house of culture and art and enjoyment. We talked about the Saturn, we talked about Mars and how they are disciplined about the enjoyment and they have their own motives, they have their own nature, how to react to the enjoyment part of it. Because at the end of the day, these planets are going to bring in their element, their nature to the 11th house, which is the house of enjoyment. So how the person is going to enjoy depends upon the 11th house. The ability to enjoy depends upon the 11th house. Now we have the Jupiter, the most benefic planet, coming in here. Now this person will be wise and positive and optimistic when it comes to the enjoyment. Mars was disciplined, Saturn was distant and disciplined and controlled, but this person is wise in enjoying the life. So he may not get carried away, and he may not restrict or distant himself from the enjoyment. So he will have the balance of both. He is wise, and now he is also going to enjoy the life. This is a great combination. The planet of wisdom and positivity is coming into the house of your friends and networking. So these people make it a point to connect with the worthy people. These people will have friends who are successful themselves. These people will connect with people naturally. These people will naturally resonate with the people who are positive, optimistic, and more like a Jupiter and successful people. And this helps them establish a meaningful networking and relationship with the worthy people. 11th house is also the house of your enjoyment, art, and more of a cultural activities. Like social as well as cultural activities can be seen with the 11th house. The planet of wisdom and learnings and all those values is coming into the house of these arts. So this brings in the positivity of Jupiter into their enjoyment. Okay, let us move on to the next. The planet of values, virtues, and honesty comes into the house of your gains and your social circle. So these people earn their money with ethical means of earnings. They will have huge gains, they will have expansion, but all this with an ethical way, because Jupiter loves to put on his values in whichever house it goes. Here, Jupiter is the Karaka of the finance and fortune. Now it is coming into the house of gains. More so, it is going to put on the moral and ethical values on the way the person earns money. What if you have debilitated Jupiter into the 11th house of the horoscope? When you have debilitated Jupiter, the first thing you have to do is check the Rashi of this Jupiter into the D9 chart. Jupiter gets debilitated, or we must say fall, into the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of restriction and practicality, and Jupiter is the planet of higher belief and wisdom. So it gets debilitated into the sign of Saturn. So first thing you have to do is check the Rashi of this Jupiter into the D9. If it is Capricorn, it becomes Vargottama. If it is Pisces or Sagittarius, it gives good result as well, because now it is debilitated into the D1, but it is into its own Rashi into the D9, which is positive. Okay. Next thing you have to look for is the planet Saturn in the D1 chart. Why? Because Jupiter is getting debilitated into the sign of Saturn. So you have to look for the placement of Saturn in the D1 chart. And you also have to look for the cancellation of this debilitation for the Jupiter. And if you don't know how to look for the cancellation, I have made a separate video about the Neecha Bhanga Raj Yoga. I'll put a link into the description section or I button above. Go and watch that video, wherein we have discussed all the conditions which cancels the debilitation. What if you have exalted Jupiter? When Jupiter is exalted, it becomes the Virgo ascendant, and Jupiter rules the 4th and the 7th house. And now it comes into the 11th house. So the person with the Jupiter in the 11th house gets gains from the 4th house and 7th house things, because both the houses Lord gets exalted into the house of gains and in Upachaya houses. So it will keep on getting gains. But again, you have to look for two things. First, the Rashi of this Jupiter into the D9, whether it is Cancer, whether it is Sagittarius, whether it is Capricorn, or whether it is Pisces. And depending upon this, the D1 Jupiter will give results. More so, you also have to look for the moon. Why moon? Because Jupiter gets exalted into the sign of Cancer, which is ruled by moon. So the placement of moon, waxing moon, waning moon, conjunctions, aspect, involvement into the yoga, the placement of moon and its distance from the Jupiter itself and aspects, all these things will matter most and will determine the exact effect of this Jupiter for the person. That's why it is different for everybody. We have not talked about the Shadbala strength. We have not talked about the Ishtakphala and Kashtaphala. We have not talked about the Avasthas. We have not talked about the Vimshottari Mahadasha. We have to consider all these things before we can even come to the conclusion whether it is good or bad, or whether it is malefic or benefic, or cruel or Saumya. We have not come to the conclusion yet. But if you are just looking for the placement of the planet, you should at least look for the Rashis in D1 and D10. D9 and D1. Okay. So yes, from the 11th house, Jupiter aspects the 3rd house of the horoscope, 5th house of the horoscope, and the 7th house of the horoscope. Jupiter has two special aspects apart from the normal 7th aspect. It will aspect the 5th house from itself, 7th house from itself, and 9th house from itself. So when it is into the 11th house, it will aspect the 3rd house, 5th and 7th. So what happens when you have Jupiter aspecting the 3rd house of the horoscope? Whenever there is a connection between the 3rd house and the Jupiter, what I have seen is these people are very good with consuming the knowledge. Especially if they are to read the books, they are very good at reading the books or consuming the information, the vast information. 3rd house is also the house of your siblings. So these people work as a mentor or a guide towards their younger siblings. Their younger siblings will look up to this guy for an advice, maybe a financial advice or maybe a spiritual or philosophical advice. From the 11th house, Jupiter aspects the 5th house of the horoscope. What is 5th house? 5th house is the house of your creativity, children, education, speculation, and your creative abilities, like your hobbies and passions. Now Jupiter brings in its positivity and abundance into the 5th house of the horoscope. So these people will guide their children, will mentor their children. Their children will get the wisdom this person has. He will always guide his children because now it is aspecting the 5th house. And when it comes to education, this will have a positive impact on the education of the person as well as the creative pursuits of the native. But for all these, you need to analyze the 5th lord, Venus, the natural karakas, and the significators and all that. But anyhow, Jupiter is going to bring in the positivity. The next aspect of Jupiter is on the 7th house. 7th house is directly opposite to the 1st house. 1st house is yourself. 7th house is about the other self. And more than other self, it is also the house of foreign things. 1st house is yourself. You are familiar with yourself. And 7th house is the other self, the foreign things which you are not comfortable with, the things which are out of your comfort zone. can be seen with the 7th house. 7th house is about the interaction with the other people. 7th house is about your diplomacy, is about the foreign things, is about the marriage and business relationship. Now Jupiter is aspecting the 7th house with the 9th aspect from the 11th house. So 7th house and 11th house are both Kama Trikona houses. So Jupiter is aspecting the 7th house of marriage, and what it shows is it brings in the gains through marriage or business or through traveling to the foreign lands. Or go and watch Bhavat Bhavam series, wherein you will have a great hold on the houses. I will put the link into the description section for all these playlists, or you can go to my YouTube page, go to the playlist and start watching any of the playlists and start exploring this fascinating world of Vedic astrology. Sending you tons of positive energy, sending you high vibrations. See you in the next videos. Love and peace.